I never thought I'd be sharing this story, yet here I am, a 30-year-old woman, finally ready to lay it all bare, for my name is Erica, and this is the saga of how my life irrevocably changed when I was just 13. Back then, we were what you call a quintessential American family. Mom, Dad, and me, nestled in our cozy 2-story house on Maple Street. Dad, a sturdy man with calloused hands, worked in construction, while Mom, with her gentle smile, was a part-time bookkeeper. We weren't rolling in dough, but our home was filled with laughter and love. We were happy. However, like a rogue wave crashing onto a peaceful shore, everything shattered the Tuesday morning Dad left for work. One moment he was kissing Mom goodbye at the door, a brown bag lunch in hand, and the next, he was gone, just like that. Mom, my rock, crumbled. She became a ghost in our own home, spending endless hours staring blankly into the abyss. And I, a bewildered teenager, had to grow up overnight, learning to fend for myself in a world suddenly devoid of its anchor. Then, about 6 months after the deafening silence of Dad's absence had settled, Mom called me to the kitchen table. Her hands trembled as she clutched her steaming coffee mug, a nervous habit I'd come to recognize. "Erica, honey," she began, her voice thin and reedy. "I need to tell you something important. I've met someone," she confessed, her gaze darting away. "His name is Richard, and he makes me feel happy again." A cold dread washed over me. In retrospect, the signs had been there, subtle shifts I'd subconsciously registered.
Would you like to go?
The hushed late-night phone calls, her sudden interest in her appearance, the mysterious errands that took her away for hours. But the words still landed like a physical blow when she announced that Richard would be moving in, along with his 6-year-old daughter, Bethany. "But Mom," I protested, the words catching in my throat. "It's only been 6 months since Dad." "I know, sweetie," she cut me off, her voice hardening with a newfound sternness I'd been hearing more and more frequently. "But life goes on. Richard is a good man, and Bethany needs a mother figure. We can be a family again." A family, that's what she called it. 2 weeks later, Richard arrived, his pickup truck overflowing with boxes of his belongings, and a small blonde girl who stared at our familiar house as if it were Cinderella's castle. Bethany was a petite thing, with bright blue eyes and bouncy pigtails, the very image of the cute little girl Mom had always cooed over. "Look at her, Erica," Mom would gush, watching Bethany color at the kitchen table or play with her dolls. "Isn't she precious? She needs so much love and attention at this age." Yes, she needed attention, and Mom was more than willing to shower her with it. Every last drop of affection she possessed, leaving a parched emptiness where my own connection with her used to be. I watched, a silent observer, as my mother transformed into the doting stepmother, while I, her own flesh and blood, faded into the background, becoming invisible in my own home. The stark reality of my new existence hit me like a slap during dinner, about a week after they moved in. Richard's mother, a formidable woman named Agnes, who would soon become the bane of my existence, had come over for supper. She cast a cursory glance in my direction and declared, "Oh my, what a big girl you are." Then, before I could react, she reached out and pinched my cheek, her long, bony fingers digging into my skin like talons. "Such a pretty face," she cooed, her smile never reaching her cold eyes. "But you know, Richard, this house would be absolutely perfect if—" She trailed off, but the unspoken words hung heavy in the air. I saw the way she looked at me, as if I were a stubborn stain on her son's pristine new family portrait. That night, I discovered angry red bruises blooming on my cheeks, where her fingers had dug in. But when I tried to show Mom, she merely shook her head dismissively. Life settled into a new rhythm, a routine I was conspicuously absent from. Mom, Richard, and Bethany became an impenetrable unit, a trio constantly engaged in shared activities, trips to the park, cozy movie nights, and boisterous laughter echoing around the dinner table at Bethany's childish jokes. Meanwhile, I was increasingly shipped off to Mom's friend Carol's house. "Erica, honey," Mom would say, her eyes avoiding mine. "Carol needs help with little Lily today. You don't mind, do you?" And so I'd trudge over to Carol's, where at least someone seemed genuinely happy to see me. Lily, a cherubic 4-year-old with springy blonde curls, and a gap-toothed grin that could melt glaciers, would greet me with a joyful shriek of, "Erica, Erica!" The hours spent playing with Lily became unexpected highlights in my otherwise dreary days. We'd construct elaborate blanket forts, host imaginary tea parties with her stuffed menagerie, and delve into fantastical storybooks, my voice morphing into a cast of silly characters. Carol would join in occasionally, offering warm smiles and genuine inquiries about my school life, actually listening to my teenage ramblings. It felt normal, like a family should feel. Back at home, however, the atmosphere was suffocating. Richard's mother, Agnes, had practically taken up permanent residence, or at least it felt that way. She was a constant presence, rearranging furniture with an air of authority, criticizing the window treatments, and offering unsolicited opinions on paint colors. And Mom, eager to please, would jump to implement every one of her suggestions. "These walls should be eggshell, not cream," Agnes would declare, and the next thing I knew, Mom would be at the local hardware store, agonizing over paint swatches. "The living room furniture needs to be rearranged for better feng shui," she'd insist, and Mom would spend her entire weekend straining to move heavy sofas and armchairs. But Agnes's favorite pastime remained tormenting me. She'd seize my cheeks between her sharp, bony fingers, squeezing until I thought my skin would tear. "Still not holding your fork properly, I see," she'd sneer, her grip tightening. "Such poor table manners. Your mother really should have taught you better." Or she'd catch me curled up on the couch with a book. "Look at her, slouching like that. No wonder she has such terrible posture." Pinch. "You'll never catch my Bethany sitting like that." Richard, in his own way, was just as bad. If I accidentally knocked over a glass while doing dishes or dropped a plate, he'd explode in a fit of rage. "Do you have any idea how much that cost?" he'd bellow, his face turning a dangerous shade of red. "Of course not. You've never earned a single dime in your life, have you? Just a freeloader, living off my hard work." "I'm sorry," I'd mumble, my hands shaking as I tried to clean up the mess. "Sorry doesn't replace things, does it?" He'd continue his tirade. "You eat my food, wear clothes I pay for, live in my house, and what do you contribute? Nothing. Just break things and make messes." Each time one of these incidents occurred, I'd instinctively look towards Mom, hoping for a flicker of support, a word of defense. But she would remain conspicuously occupied, busying herself with cleaning or fussing over Bethany, pointedly pretending not to hear. The day I turned 16, a quiet rebellion sparked within me. I was no longer willing to be Richard's freeloader. I woke up before dawn that morning and walked the neighborhood, taping up hastily made flyers, advertising dog walking services. By the afternoon, I had 3 clients lined up. "You want to walk dogs?" Mrs. Gable, who lived 2 streets over, asked skeptically when I knocked on her door. "What about all that schoolwork teenagers have these days?" "I can manage both," I assured her, trying to project an air of confidence I didn't entirely feel. "I get good grades, and I'm very responsible with animals." She remained dubious, but handed over her golden retriever's leash nonetheless. "All right, let's give it a try. Max needs a walk every day after school. $10 per walk." That was just the beginning. Soon, I was juggling walks for 5 different dogs, babysitting the rambunctious Peterson twins on weekends, and helping old Mr. Henderson, no relation to Agnes thankfully, with his grocery shopping. Carol officially hired me as Lily's after-school nanny, which felt strange since I'd been caring for her for free all along. I meticulously saved every dollar I earned, resisting the temptations of candy, movies, and the frivolous purchases that consume my classmates. After 3 long months, I had enough to buy what I'd been yearning for, a smartphone. Nothing fancy, just a basic model on sale, but it was mine. The day I brought it home, a genuine smile stretched across my face. I possessed something that was solely mine, something no one could claim they had paid for. I was setting up the phone in my room when Bethany, now 9 and with an infuriating habit of entering without knocking, barged in. "What's that?" she demanded, pointing a manicured finger at my new possession. "It's my new phone," I replied, striving for a neutral tone. "I bought it with money from my jobs." Bethany's eyes widened with avarice. "But I want a phone." Before I could stop her, she bolted downstairs, her shrill voice echoing through the house as she summoned Richard. I heard his heavy footsteps ascending the stairs, and a knot of dread tightened in my stomach. "What's wrong, Princess?" he asked from my doorway, his gaze immediately settling on the phone in my hand. "Erica has a phone, and I want it," Bethany whined, pointing at me accusingly. What transpired next still makes my blood boil with incandescent rage. Without a word, not a single syllable, Richard strode across the room, snatched the phone right out of my grasp, and handed it to Bethany. "Daddy's got you covered, sweetheart," he cooed, completely ignoring my existence. I was so consumed by fury that my vision blurred. The following day at school, I confided everything to my English teacher, Mrs. Davison. The stolen phone, Richard's relentless belittling, Mom's chilling indifference. She listened with quiet concern, then gently guided me to the principal's office. By that afternoon, Mom was summoned to the school. I wasn't privy to the meeting, but I could hear the muffled sounds of raised voices filtering through the closed door. When Mom emerged, her face was flushed with anger, but she clutched my phone in her hand. She thrust it at me without meeting my gaze. "Here," she spat through gritted teeth. "I hope you're happy now." That night, after Bethany had wailed for hours about the injustice of losing her phone, Mom cornered me in my room. "How dare you," she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper. "How dare you go behind our backs like that? Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? You're nothing but a traitor." That was the last thing she said to me for 2 agonizing weeks. She and Richard both treated me as if I were a ghost, walking past me as if I were invisible, talking around me as if I didn't exist. Even at dinner, they'd pass dishes right in front of me without acknowledging my presence. 2 years crawled by in much the same way, me working tirelessly at my various jobs, trying to maintain a low profile at home, and throwing myself into my studies with a fierce determination. I knew education was my only viable escape route. When senior year finally arrived, I applied for every scholarship I could find, my hopes pinned on those slender pieces of paper. The day the acceptance letter arrived from State College, I nearly vomited from a potent cocktail of anxiety and anticipation. I waited until I was alone in my room, the silence amplifying the frantic thumping of my heart, before tearing open the envelope with trembling hands. "Dear Ms. Thompson," the letter began, "we are pleased to inform you." I had to reread the sentence 3 times before the words registered, before the incredible weight of their meaning settled upon me. Full scholarship. They were offering me a full ride. I had done it. I was going to college, and I wouldn't have to beg Richard for a single cent. In a naive moment of wishful thinking, I imagined that this news might elicit a flicker of pride, that it might finally make Mom see me again. I waited until dinner that night when the 3 of them were seated around the table, their usual dynamic of exclusion in full swing. "Mom, Richard," I began, my heart pounding a hopeful rhythm against my ribs. "I have some good news. I got accepted to State College." "What?" Richard's fork clattered against his plate, the sharp sound slicing through the fragile hope in the air. "You applied to college without telling me? Who do you think you are, living in my house, eating my food, and making decisions like this behind my back?" "But it's a full scholarship," I rushed to explain, my voice trembling slightly. "You won't have to pay anything." "Damn right I wouldn't pay anything," he spat, his face contorted with fury. "Not a single cent for an ungrateful freeloader like you, always sneaking around, always plotting something." I turned to Mom, my eyes pleading for support, for understanding. She stared down at her plate, mechanically pushing her food around with her fork. "Mom," I implored, my voice cracking, "please say something. Why aren't you standing up for me?" She finally lifted her gaze, but the warmth I desperately sought was absent, replaced by a chilling coldness. "Why should I?" she retorted, her voice sharp and accusatory. "You've never shown any respect for this family. You've never accepted Richard. All you've done is try to destroy my marriage from day one. Respect?" Something inside me snapped, a fragile thread finally breaking under the years of accumulated hurt and simmering anger. "Respect him?" I choked out, my voice thick with emotion. "He's a bully, a terrible person. There's nothing to respect." The slap came out of nowhere, a brutal punctuation mark to my outburst. One moment I was standing there, trembling with righteous anger, and the next, My cheek was ablaze with a searing pain. Mom's hand still raised in the air. "Get out," she whispered, her voice laced with a venomous fury I'd never witnessed before. Then louder, her voice rising to a shriek. "Get out of my house!" I instinctively touched my stinging cheek, feeling as though I'd stumbled into a grotesque nightmare. I fled upstairs, my mind a whirlwind of shock and disbelief. In a daze, I grabbed my backpack, frantically stuffing it with whatever clothes I could reach, my phone, my precious school documents, and the meager amount of cash I had painstakingly saved. Everything else, every tangible piece of my past life, would have to remain behind. I could faintly hear Bethany's triumphant laughter and Richard's booming voice downstairs, but it all seemed distant, muffled, unreal. 10 agonizing minutes later, I found myself standing on the front porch of Jenny, a quiet girl from my biology class, the only person I could think to call in my desperate flight. When she opened the door and saw my tear-streaked face, the overloaded backpack slung over my shoulder, she didn't ask any questions. She simply pulled me inside and enveloped me in a warm, comforting hug. I was sitting at Jenny's kitchen table, a mug of lukewarm tea clutched in my trembling hands, trying to formulate a plan for how I'd navigate college while essentially homeless, when her Aunt Maria walked in. "So you're the girl Jenny's been telling me about," she said, her keen eyes assessing me from head to toe. "Need a job?" As it turned out, Maria owned a small, bustling Italian restaurant downtown, and above it was a vacant studio apartment. Before I could fully grasp the enormity of my situation, she was offering me both: half-price rent, free meals during my shifts, and flexible working hours that would accommodate my class schedule. "The apartment needs some work," she admitted, her gaze sweeping around Jenny's cozy kitchen. "But it's clean and safe." I started as a waitress, a whirlwind of taking orders, delivering plates, and bussing tables, absorbing everything I could about the intricacies of the restaurant business. Maria was a tough but fair mentor, imparting practical knowledge that no business textbook could ever teach. "Watch how that table keeps sending food back," she'd observe, her voice low and instructive. "That's why we document every complaint, every compliment. Details matter in this business." The studio apartment was tiny, barely large enough for a twin bed and a mini fridge, but it was mine. No Richard yelling about freeloaders, no Bethany barging in without knocking, no Agnes's critical gaze dissecting my every move, just my own small sanctuary, where I could study, sleep, and finally breathe without the constant weight of their disapproval pressing down on me. By my senior year of college, Maria, recognizing my dedication and aptitude, had promoted me to administrative assistant, entrusting me with more responsibilities. I graduated with my business degree on a Saturday and was back at the restaurant, ready to tackle schedules, inventory, and staff management by Monday morning. "You've got a real gift for this, Erica," Maria told me one afternoon, 2 years later, after I'd steadily climbed the ranks to manager. She sat back in her worn office chair, looking tired but satisfied. "Jenny tells me you two have been talking about a partnership." I shifted nervously in my chair. "We've discussed it, but..." "Good," she cut me off, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "Because I'm retiring. The restaurant's going to Jenny, but she needs someone who knows this business inside and out. Someone like you." My heart skipped a beat. "Are you saying..." "I'm saying you two should run this place together," she declared, her eyes twinkling. "Equal partners. You've got the experience. She has got the passion. Could be a powerful combination." Jenny and I stayed up late that night, fueled by lukewarm coffee and a shared vision. I had diligently saved every spare penny from the past few years, a silent testament to my unwavering determination, and Jenny brimmed with innovative ideas for modernizing the menu and expanding the business's reach. "We can do this, Erica," she said, her eyes shining with infectious excitement. "We can really do this, make it our own." And so we did. I poured every dollar I had into the venture, and together we transformed Maria's traditional Italian eatery into something uniquely ours, a vibrant hub of culinary creativity and warm hospitality. In the years that followed, we triumphantly opened a second location across town, sometimes in the quiet lull between lunch and dinner rushes, As I walk through our bustling restaurants, observing the smooth orchestration of staff and the contented murmur of happy customers, my thoughts would drift back to my family. 11 years had passed since that brutal night Mom had slapped me and banished me from my own home. I knew they were still in the city, gleaned from the occasional, carefully curated glimpses into Bethany's social media life, but we inhabited vastly different galaxies now. One crisp autumn afternoon, Jenny and I were ensconced in our office above the downtown location, surrounded by a chaotic landscape of spreadsheets and expansion plans, when the lively sounds of a party arriving downstairs drifted up. "Sounds like the engagement party's here," Jenny commented, glancing at the booking schedule. 50 people. Should be a good night. We had a cherished tradition, something we'd established when we first took over the restaurant. We'd make a point of going out to greet our customers, solicit their feedback, and make them feel genuinely valued. It was one of the small touches that set us apart. "I'll go check on them," I said, slipping on my tailored blazer, our restaurant's elegant logo embroidered on the pocket, and pinning my name badge to my lapel. "You finish up with those vendor contracts." The crescendo of laughter and the delicate clinking of glasses grew louder as I descended the stairs. A large party like this could translate into valuable repeat business, perhaps even more lucrative event bookings in the future. I straightened my badge, plastered on my most professional smile, and then I saw them. My mother was seated at the head table, her silvering hair styled in its usual, impeccable manner. Richard sat stiffly beside her, somehow appearing both older and disconcertingly the same. And Bethany was radiant in a sequined dress, her hand intertwined with that of a young man in an obscenely expensive suit. My sister's engagement party. For a fleeting, panicked instant, I considered an immediate retreat, a silent vanishing act. But before I could execute my escape, Mom's eyes locked onto mine, and the glacial recognition dawned in their depths. "Well, look who it is," she announced loudly, her voice cutting through the convivial chatter, causing heads to turn in my direction. "Our waitress for the evening." Richard's face contorted into that familiar sneer of contempt. 30 years old and still serving tables? Can't say I'm surprised. I opened my mouth to speak, a retort already forming on my tongue, but Mom swiftly cut me off. "I always knew you'd end up like this," she said, her voice dripping with a venomous satisfaction. "Look at your sister, college graduate, economist, getting married to a wonderful man. And you, still wearing a name tag and taking orders." Bethany giggled, squeezing her fiancé's hand. "Maybe she'll do our dishes tonight, right, Daddy? Show us her special skills. The floors, too." Richard, visibly swaying, the scent of alcohol heavy in the air, abruptly stood up. "In fact," he slurred, "let's give her something to clean up right now." It happened with shocking speed. He snatched a plate laden with a vibrant salad from the table and hurled it towards me with brutal force. The shattering crash made everyone jump, a collective gasp rippling through the room. I felt a sharp, stinging sensation on my cheek and instinctively reached up to touch it. My fingertips came away smeared with red. "Oops," Richard smirked, his eyes glinting with malice as he stared at the thin trickle of blood tracing a path down my face. "Better get a mop, waitress." My blood ran cold, then boiled. As I stood there, the sticky warmth of my own blood on my skin, 11 years of suppressed hurt and incandescent rage surged within me, threatening to erupt. I was poised to unleash every bitter word, every raw emotion I had ever wanted to hurl at them. But before I could utter a single syllable, Jenny's voice, calm and authoritative, sliced through the tense silence. "I believe the situation requires immediate attention," she said, stepping forward with the quiet confidence she had absorbed from her Aunt Maria. She held our service agreement, bound in supple leather and embossed with our restaurant's elegant gold logo. Jenny cleared her throat and addressed the stunned room. "According to our service agreement, Section 3, 2. Any customers who verbally abuse or physically harm our staff or ownership," she paused, her gaze pointedly sweeping toward me, "will be immediately removed from the premises." "Ownership?" Mom's mouth fell open, a look of utter disbelief washing over her face. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, didn't you know?" Jenny's smile was razor sharp, a stark contrast to her usual warmth. "You're talking to Erica Thompson, co-owner of this establishment and 3 others across the city." The silence that followed was deafening, thick with unspoken shock and dawning realization. I watched as the color drained from my mother's face as she finally truly looked around the restaurant. At the framed glowing reviews adorning the walls, the elegant decor, the sophisticated clientele, all the tangible evidence of a success she had never bothered to acknowledge. That's impossible," Richard sputtered, but I could see the insidious tendrils of doubt creeping into his eyes. "Furthermore," Jenny continued, her voice unwavering, "in cases of assault, we reserve the right to terminate service immediately without refund." She turned to me, her expression one of quiet support. "Erica, your call." I straightened my blazer, deliberately wiped the blood from my cheek with the back of my hand, and found my voice, clear and steady, despite the tremor of adrenaline coursing through me. "Clear the tables," I commanded, my gaze sweeping across our attentive staff. "All 50 guests need to leave. Now." Our waiters sprang into action, moving with practiced efficiency to remove plates and glasses. That's when I heard the familiar grating screech of Agnes, Richard's mother, clutching her plate of pasta as if it were a priceless artifact. "You can't do this," she shrieked, the same shrill tone she used to employ when berating my teenage table manners while pinching my cheeks raw. "This is my son's daughter's engagement party." One of our busboys, Miguel, politely attempted to take her plate, but she yanked it back with surprising force, sending a spray of marinara sauce flying through the air. "Help, help, they're attacking me," she wailed dramatically. Richard lurched forward, his face a mask of purple rage. "Get your hands off my mother," he roared, advancing towards me, his fists clenched menacingly. But our security team was faster. 2 burly guards swiftly stepped between us, while a third calmly announced that the police were already en route. Bethany had dissolved into a puddle of tears, her perfect engagement party irrevocably ruined. "Mom, do something," she sobbed, her mascara running in black streaks down her face. But Mom just stood there, a picture of utter bewilderment and defeat. The woman who had once slapped me and thrown me out of my home, now unable to even meet my gaze. The next 30 minutes were a blur of chaotic activity. The police arrived first, meticulously taking statements from multiple witnesses who had captured the entire scene on their smartphones. Richard, still shouting incoherent threats, was handcuffed and led away. The paramedics arrived next, efficiently cleaning and bandaging the cut on my cheek, while the remaining guests, a hushed murmur rippling through their ranks, filed out of the restaurant. My phone rang 3 days after the incident. Unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered. "Erica?" Mom's voice was softer than I'd heard it in years, almost pleading. Please don't hang up." I remained silent, waiting. "Look, about Richard. The police are pressing charges. You need to drop them. He could lose his job over this." "No," I said simply, the finality of the word echoing in the quiet of my office. And I hung up. Within hours, the social media onslaught began. Mom's first post was a lengthy, melodramatic diatribe, painting herself as the victim of a vindictive restaurant owner who had maliciously ruined her precious daughter's engagement party. The comment section quickly filled with sympathetic voices, people vowing never to patronize our establishments. Then Bethany joined in, posting a tearful rant about her psychotic stepsister who couldn't bear to witness her little sister's happiness. The post spread like wildfire through local community groups. Jenny found me staring at my phone, a knot of weariness tightening in my chest as I read the vitriolic lies. "You know we have it all on video, right?" she said gently, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "The security system Maria installed years ago? It automatically zooms in and records audio when it detects raised voices or aggressive movements. The footage was crystal clear, a damning indictment of their behavior. You could hear every word. Richard's threats, Mom's cutting insults, the violent crash of the plate, Agnes's ear-splitting screech. I posted it, in the comments of Mom's rant," Jenny said, a hint of grim satisfaction in her voice, with a simple message. Here's what actually happened. The video exploded overnight. Other guests from the ill-fated engagement party started posting their own phone recordings, corroborating our account. Someone had even captured the perfect angle of Miguel's valiant attempt to retrieve Agnes's pasta. her face contorted with rage, sauce flying everywhere, his professional composure never wavering. That single clip garnered millions of views. Restaurant drama became a trending topic locally, then nationally. Food blogs picked up the story. Family crashes engagement party at daughter's own restaurant made headline news. Comment sections overflowed with people sharing their own painful stories of family estrangement and toxic parents. The consequences were swift and undeniable. Richard's company, already reeling from the negative publicity surrounding his arrest, couldn't ignore the viral video of him assaulting his stepdaughter at her own place of business. They quietly demoted him to a less visible role. The court levied hefty fines for assault and property damage. Mom desperately tried to engage in damage control, deleting her inflammatory posts. But screenshots, as they always do, lived forever in the digital ether. Bethany's wedding venue, mortified by the scandal, canceled her booking. Agnes, the pasta-wielding banshee, became an internet meme, her screeching face plastered across social media. Watching the view count climb on that security footage, a memory surfaced from the dark days after Mom had kicked me out. A silent promise I used to whisper to myself in the lonely hours. Someday things will be different. Someday I'll have the chance to reconcile with my family. Someday they'll realize what they've done and try to make it right. But seeing them in my restaurant that night, witnessing their blatant attempt to humiliate me even after all my hard-won success, even after all these long, arduous years, I finally understood a profound and liberating truth. Some things can't be fixed. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. The viral video, ironically, ended up being remarkably good for business, but that wasn't why I kept it pinned to my profile. I kept it there as a stark reminder, both for myself and for anyone else who might stumble upon it, that sometimes the truest form of a happy ending isn't about forgiveness or tearful reunions. Sometimes it's about accepting that it's perfectly okay, even necessary, to walk away and never look back. Valuable lesson: your worth is not defined by the approval or acceptance of others, especially those who treat you with disrespect and cruelty. It is okay to create healthy boundaries, even if those boundaries involve distancing yourself from toxic family members. Your peace and well-being are paramount. What are your thoughts on this story? Have you ever had to create distance from toxic relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking narratives.